Part 1. The Truth About Positivity Hook. A question that changes everything. What if I told you that staying positive doesn't mean plastering on a fake smile and pretending everything's fine? That it's not about ignoring your pain at all? You might pause and say, "Then what is it?" I had the same question years ago, standing in my kitchen with tears running down my face, clutching a coffee mug I hadn't even taken a sip from. My life felt like it had been tossed into a blender, messy, loud, and completely out of my control. People kept telling me, "Just stay positive." But every time I heard it, I wanted to shout back, "You have no idea what I'm going through." That's when I discovered something Napoleon Hill hinted at in his writings. Real positivity isn't blind optimism. It's the courage to see life exactly as it is, and still move forward anyway. The myth of positivity. A lot of people have the wrong idea about what it means to stay positive. They think it's about acting like everything is sunshine and rainbows, even when the storm is raging around them. They paste on smiles. They hide their tears. They tell themselves, "If I don't think about the bad stuff, maybe it will go away." But here's the truth. Pretending doesn't make the pain disappear. In fact, it makes it worse. When you bury pain deep inside, it doesn't heal, it festers. It spreads bitterness into every corner of your life. Napoleon Hill wrote that success always begins with truth. You can't build something strong on a foundation of lies, and that includes lies you tell yourself. The first step to genuine positivity isn't denial, it's honesty. Facing the storm. I once met a man named David. He wasn't rich, he wasn't famous, but he had a quiet strength I admired. David had lost everything in just 1 week. His business went bankrupt. His bank account emptied. His plans for the future dissolved like sugar in hot coffee. For days, he couldn't get out of bed. He stared at the ceiling, wondering how it had all gone so wrong. When I met him, I asked, "How did you start again?" He told me about one morning when he sat up in bed, looked at the clock, and decided to do just one thing: make himself a cup of tea. That's it. No big business plan. No overnight miracle. Just tea. The next day, he took a short walk. The day after, he made a list of small tasks. Weeks later, he began sketching ideas for a new business. David didn't avoid his pain. He acknowledged it. He faced it. And with each small step, he rebuilt himself, not because the pain vanished, but because he chose to move forward anyway. That's real positivity. What real positivity looks like. It's not about forcing yourself to smile when your heart is breaking. It's not telling yourself, "Everything happens for a reason," while ignoring the reality in front of you. Real positivity is looking your struggles in the eye and saying, "This hurts, but it will not break me." It's keeping faith that beyond this chapter of pain, there's another chapter waiting to be written. Hill would say it's the seed of an equal or greater benefit, hidden inside the difficulty. But here's the key: you won't find that seed by pretending the difficulty doesn't exist. You find it by turning toward the struggle and asking, "What can I do with this?" The power of small wins. So how do you start practicing this authentic positivity? Step 1. Tell the truth about how you feel. Write it down. Say it out loud. Share it with someone you trust. Don't sugarcoat it. Step 2. Take one small action. Not 10. Not 50. Just one. Maybe all you can manage today is brushing your teeth. Maybe it's stepping outside for fresh air. Maybe it's making a sandwich. This might seem ridiculously small, but those little actions are momentum. And momentum is what gets you through the hardest days. Napoleon Hill said that action is the real measure of intelligence. You can think, plan, and hope all day long, but nothing changes until you take a step, no matter how tiny. Why this matters: when you pretend you're okay, you rob yourself of the opportunity to grow stronger. When you face your reality and choose hope anyway, you take back control from your circumstances. Pain loses its power when you stop running from it. And as strange as it sounds, that's when healing begins. Think about it. Storms don't last forever. But if you hide in the basement, never looking out, you'll miss the first sign of the clouds breaking. A personal promise: when my own life was crumbling, I made myself a promise. I would never confuse fake cheerfulness with real strength again. I'd rather walk through a storm with my eyes open than sit in the dark pretending it's sunny. And here's the thing, I did get stronger. Not because life suddenly got easier, but because I learned that positivity isn't about comfort. It's about courage. It's about choosing gratitude when bitterness would be easier. It's about choosing action when despair tells you to give up. So if you're in a hard season right now, don't force yourself to be happy. Be honest. Be brave. And take that one small step. Because in the end, positivity isn't the absence of pain. It's the decision to keep moving toward hope, one shaking step at a time. Napoleon Hill Principle number 1. You control your own mind, and with it, you control your own destiny. Real positivity starts with controlling your thoughts, not to deny pain, but to decide what you will do with it. Part 2. How real strength is built. Hook. The day I thought I was done, I remember the day I thought I was finished. I was sitting in my car in a grocery store parking lot, staring at the steering wheel, unable to move. My plans had fallen apart. My bank account was nearly empty. My confidence was gone. If you'd asked me in that moment, "Are you strong?" I would have laughed bitterly. Strong? I couldn't even bring myself to go buy a loaf of bread. That's when an older man walked past my car, holding 2 heavy grocery bags. He was moving slowly, limping on one leg, but steady. Our eyes met for just a second, and I thought, that man has probably seen harder days than I have, but he's still walking. That image stuck in my mind. And later, when I came across Napoleon Hill's words, strength and growth come only through continuous effort and struggle, I realized strength isn't something you're born with. It's something you build, moment by moment, choice by choice. Why this matters: if you believe strength is something you either have or don't, you'll give up too soon. You'll look at people who seem naturally tough and think, that's just not me. But if you understand that strength grows the same way a tree grows, through storms, through seasons, grounded by roots, you stop making excuses. You start building yours. Everyone hits breaking points. The difference between those who crumble and those who rise isn't some magical inner gift, it's practice. It's the daily habit of choosing courage over comfort, growth over safety, action over surrender. Start where you are. You don't have to wait for the perfect moment to get stronger. Start right here, right now, with what you have. Take one difficult moment today and face it with courage, not perfection. Maybe it's speaking up when you want to stay silent, standing firm when you feel shaky, finishing something when quitting would be easier. Every time you do, your resilience grows. I knew a woman who had been avoiding a difficult conversation with her boss for months. She was terrified she'd be misunderstood or judged. But one morning, she decided to do it anyway. She walked into his office, heart pounding, and spoke her truth. The world didn't end. In fact, her boss respected her more. That moment didn't just solve a work problem. It built a brick in the wall of her inner strength. Tiny acts, big results. Real resilience isn't built in grand gestures. It's built in tiny acts, repeated daily. Saying no to something that drains you. Saying yes to something that challenges you. Taking the class that intimidates you. Making the phone call you dread. These moments feel small, but they're the building blocks of an unshakable spirit. Pay attention to how you talk to yourself in hard times. Are you your own worst critic or your strongest supporter? Resilient people aren't unrealistically cheerful. They're honest, but kind with themselves. They don't pretend pain doesn't hurt. They simply refuse to give pain the final word. They say, "This is hard, and I can handle hard things." The laid-off Monty once met a man who was laid off from his job. Then came the rejections. Then came the embarrassment when people asked how he was doing. One day he told me, "I'm just not built for this." But then he kept getting up every morning. He wrote job applications. He worked at jobs to pay the bills. He didn't feel strong, but he acted strong. 6 months later, he didn't just have a new job. He had rediscovered an old passion he'd buried years before. That wasn't luck. That was resilience forged in fire. The beautiful thing about resilience is that it compounds. Each challenge you survive builds strength for the next one. Each time you refuse to quit, you prove to yourself that quitting isn't the only option. Strength isn't about never breaking. There's a dangerous myth that being strong means never crying, never doubting, never stumbling. That's nonsense. Real strength is not the absence of breaking down. It's the decision to rise after you do. It's messy, emotional, human doubt. We've been taught the wrong pictures of strength. The hero who never wavers, the man who never lets them see him sweat, the woman who has it all together. But if you look closely at the strongest people you actually know, you'll see something different. They have fallen apart before, many times, but they pick up the pieces and build something new. They cry when they need to cry. They admit when they're lost. They ask for help when the weight gets too heavy. The tree in the storm. Think about a tree in a fierce storm. It doesn't stand stiff and rigid. That would snap it in two. It bends. It sways. Sometimes it loses branches, but its roots hold firm. When the storm passes, the tree is still standing. That's real strength, not resisting movement, but bending without breaking completely. The weight of pretending. When we hide our pain, we isolate ourselves. We think we're the only ones struggling, the only ones overwhelmed, the only ones without all the answers. That belief makes the burden heavier. Doubt we carry not just the original pain, but the shame of having it, the fear of showing it, and the exhaustion of pretending we're fine. But when we admit our weakness, something shifts. We tap into a deeper strength, the kind that connects us, heals us, and moves us forward. Learning to feel and act. Building this kind of strength starts with allowing yourself to feel. Don't rush to numb it with distractions. Don't hide it behind a fake smile. Sit with it. Let it teach you. Let it show you what matters, what hurts, what needs attention. Then act. Open up to someone you trust. Rest when you need to. Scream into a pillow if you must. Then take a deep breath and move forward. I once knew a young man who looked like the picture of control. Calm. Collected. Nothing rattled him, or so it seemed. But when life hit him with loss after loss, he broke down in private. He thought that meant he'd failed. But when he finally asked for help, when he let people see his pain, he found something unexpected. He grew stronger. Not by holding it in, but by letting it out. Belief comes before proof. Here's the last truth in this chapter. Too many people wait for proof before they believe in themselves. They think, once I'm successful, I'll have confidence. But that's backward. Confidence doesn't come after the win, it creates the win. Success isn't the fuel for belief. Belief is the fuel for success. History proves it. Every great invention, every breakthrough, every change in the world started with someone believing in something that didn't exist yet. including their own ability to make it real. Self-belief isn't a reward. It's a responsibility. It's deciding to trust your own ability to grow, adapt, and overcome, especially when nothing is certain. Real confidence isn't the guarantee you'll never fail. It's knowing you'll survive failure. It's understanding that falling down doesn't make you a failure, but staying down does. Part 3. The quiet power that changes everything. Self-belief is the quiet assurance that whatever happens, you'll figure it out along the way. It matters because doubt is loud, and life is full of setbacks. Doubt will whisper that you're not smart enough, not experienced enough, not worthy enough. It will point to your past mistakes and say, "See? You always mess things up." Without belief in yourself, those moments become full stops, game over. With belief, they become commas, pauses, lessons, chapters, but never the conclusion. Self-belief changes how you interpret everything. A rejection becomes redirection. A failure becomes education. A closed door becomes motivation to find another way. The same events that crush someone without confidence become stepping stones for someone who believes in their own resilience. How to build the foundation? It starts with the words you tell yourself. The conversation in your head runs all day, every day, and it shapes who you become. Instead of saying, "I can't," say, "I'm learning." Instead of saying, "I always mess this up," say, "I'm still improving." Instead of saying, "I'm not good at this," say, "I'm not good at this yet." Talk to yourself like you would talk to someone you love, because no voice will shape your life more than your own. You wouldn't tell a friend they're hopeless, so why tell yourself that? You wouldn't convince someone you care about to give up on their dreams, so why do it to yourself? Start small. Pick one area where doubt has been winning and plant a seed of belief. Maybe it's believing you can learn something new. Maybe it's believing you deserve better than you've been settling for. Maybe it's believing your ideas matter, your voice counts, your presence makes a difference. I know a woman who had no support and no experience when she decided to start over at 45. Her marriage had ended, her career had stalled, and she was terrified. Every morning she stood in front of the mirror and said, "I can do hard things." It became her mantra, her anchor, her truth. Slowly, her confidence grew, not because her life became easy, but because her words built a stronger foundation than her fear. You don't need permission to believe in yourself. You don't need credentials, proof, or anyone else's approval. You just need to start, even if it's shaky, even if it feels like pretending at first. Because every act of courage, every risk taken, every mountain climbed starts with a whisper, "I believe I can." 6. Growth can't wait for the calm. We like to imagine that personal growth will happen after life calms down, after the storm passes, after we're in a better place. But the truth is, growth happens because of the storm, not in spite of it. Struggle doesn't delay your growth, it delivers it. We tell ourselves we'll work on ourselves when the crisis ends, when we have more time, more energy, more clarity. But that perfect moment never arrives. Life isn't designed to be still. Think about how trees grow. They don't stop during storms. They grow stronger because of them. The wind that threatens to knock them down forces their roots deeper. The rain that soaks them also nourishes them. Waiting for a perfect moment to grow is like waiting for the tide to stop before learning to swim. The ocean will never hold still for you. Real growth, the kind that transforms you, comes from walking through difficulty, not around it. Pain often means something inside you needs to change. The discomfort you feel isn't always a sign of failure. it's often the sign of growth. Every difficult season carries the seeds of who you could become. The job loss that terrifies you might teach you what you truly value. The breakup that breaks your heart might show you what you really need. The failure that humiliates you might reveal strengths you never knew you had. Growth begins when you say, "I won't waste this." You take your hurt, your confusion, your disappointment, and you turn them into fuel. You reflect, you ask hard questions, you learn. And here's the choice you always have: you can harden or you can shape. Hardening makes you bitter, closed, defensive. Shaping makes you wiser, stronger, more compassionate. I once met a man whose wife died suddenly. His world collapsed. For months, he could barely function. Then one day he found an old journal his wife had given him. At first, he could only write a few words, then sentences, then pages. He read books on grief, joined support groups, and eventually began helping others through loss. His pain didn't disappear, but he grew inside it. Your breakdown can become your breakthrough if you choose to grow through it instead of just go through it. You don't have to wait for peace to start changing. Every hard day is a classroom. Every disappointment is a mirror. Every choice you make in the chaos writes the story of your growth. The storm isn't stopping your transformation, it's delivering it. 7. Positivity is earned. It's easy to think positivity belongs only to people with easy lives. That optimism is a personality trait some people are just born with. But positivity isn't a gift, it's a discipline. And the people who have it fought for it. Positivity is not about pretending things are easy when they're not. It's not about putting on a fake smile and ignoring reality. That's denial. Real positivity faces the difficulty and still chooses to focus on what remains possible. It's like being a gardener in a drought. You don't pretend the drought isn't happening, but you don't give up on your garden either. You protect what matters most. You water what you can. You look for small signs of life and hold on to them. Positivity is a muscle you build in the hardest moments, not the easiest ones. Anyone can be cheerful when life is smooth. But when disappointment follows disappointment, when the light ahead disappears, that's when positivity becomes a choice. It starts with perspective. You notice one good thing, no matter how small: the warmth of your coffee, the sound of rain, the fact that you woke up today. You measure success by showing up, not just by winning. Positivity is a lens, not a filter. A filter hides problems. A lens helps you see them more clearly, along with the solutions you might have missed. This doesn't mean ignoring sadness or fear. It means letting them sit beside hope, not replace it. Some days, choosing positivity means simply getting out of bed. Some days, it's speaking kindly to yourself when self-criticism feels easier. Some days, it's finding one thing to be grateful for when everything else is going wrong. I know a woman who lost her health, her job, and her marriage all in the same year. She was alone, sick, and broke. But every day, she wrote down 3 good things, sometimes just a cup of warm tea or a moment watching the sunset. Over time, her perspective shifted. Her strength returned. Joy came back, not because life was perfect, but because her mindset became powerful. Positivity isn't luck. It's work. It's the repeated choice to feed hope instead of fear. And every morning, you decide which voice in your head gets to be the loudest. Choose the one that believes in possibilities. If you want, I can now also make part 4 in the exact same style so the whole section flows seamlessly. That would keep the tone consistent through the next chapters. Part 4. The power of focus in a distracted world. We live in an age where distraction is the default setting. Your phone pings, the news shouts, social media scrolls endlessly, and before you know it, an entire day has slipped away without anything truly meaningful getting done. Focus has become a rare superpower, and the people who master it create lives others only dream about. Because here's the truth, you can't do everything, but you can do what matters most. When you learn to focus, you stop scattering your energy on 100 little things and start pouring it into the few big things that actually move your life forward. You stop living reactively, and you start living intentionally. Distraction feels harmless. Just a few minutes here, a quick check there, but it adds up to a lifetime of almost finished projects, almost reached goals, almost changed. Focus is the bridge between intentions and results. 1. Decide what matters most. You can't focus if you don't know what's worth focusing on. Most people are busy, but busy isn't the same as productive. You can spend all day answering emails, running errands, scrolling, reacting, and end the day exhausted but unchanged. Ask yourself, if I could only accomplish one thing this week that would make me proud, what would it be? That's your priority. You don't need 10 main goals. You need one clear target at a time. Hit it, then aim again. I once coached a young man who said he wanted to get his life together. That's not a focus, that's a cloud. We narrowed it down. For the next 90 days, his only mission was to build a daily writing habit. No side projects. No chasing random ideas. By the end of 3 months, he had written over 80,000 words, something he'd been trying to do for years without success. The difference wasn't talent. It was focus. When you know what matters most, you stop saying yes to everything that doesn't. 2. Guard your attention like treasure. Attention is the currency of achievement. Every time you give it away carelessly, you're making a withdrawal from your future. That quick scroll through social media, that just 5 minutes of TV before bed, that constant jumping between tasks, it's all interest you'll pay later and miss progress. Guarding your attention means creating an environment where focus is easier than distraction. That might mean turning off non-essential notifications, working in a quiet space, keeping your phone in another room while you work, using time blocks where you do nothing but the task at hand. It's not about willpower, it's about setup. Make it harder to get distracted, and you'll need less energy to stay focused. There's a concept I love, attention residue. Every time you switch tasks, a piece of your attention stays stuck in the thing you just left. That's why, just checking your messages can derail your flow for half an hour. Deep work, the kind that changes your life, only happens when your attention is undivided for long stretches. Protect those stretches like gold. 3. Cut the noise to hear the signal. Not all distractions come from outside. Some come from inside your own head. Fear of missing out, overthinking, worrying about what others will think, planning 10 steps ahead before taking the first one. If you wait to start until you feel perfectly ready, you'll never start. Clarity comes from action, not from overthinking. Cutting the noise means simplifying decisions, saying no without guilt, and trusting that the world will not collapse if you don't respond immediately to every request. Here's a truth that's uncomfortable but freeing. Most things in life don't matter as much as we think they do. And when you stop giving your energy to the unimportant, You create room for the extraordinary. I once heard about a photographer who was invited to document a humanitarian mission in a remote part of the world. It was the opportunity of a lifetime. But the dates clashed with 3 smaller jobs he had already booked. He made the hard choice. He canceled the smaller jobs. Some people thought he was reckless. But those few weeks abroad produced the most powerful work of his career. Work that later opened doors he couldn't have imagined. If he had tried to do it all, he would have done nothing remarkable. For focus is a daily choice. You don't get focus once and keep it forever. You choose it every day. Every morning you decide whether today will be scattered or purposeful. That choice often starts with a small ritual, writing down your top 3 priorities, reviewing your long-term goals, or simply taking a moment to breathe and decide where your energy will go. Some days, life will still interrupt you. Emergencies happen. Plans change. But when focus is your default, you'll return to it faster after being pulled away. It's like steering a ship. You can be blown off course temporarily, but if you know your destination, you'll always correct your path. And here's the reward: focus compounds. Every day you give your best energy to what matters most, you move a step closer to your vision. And over weeks, months, years, those steps turn into miles. You look back and realize you've built something solid, meaningful, and real, while most people are still spinning in circles. 5. The quiet satisfaction of enough focus isn't just about getting more done. It's about finding contentment in doing the right things and letting the rest go. When you stop trying to keep up with everything, you feel lighter. You measure success by progress on what matters, not by how much noise you create. Busyness is often just a disguise for avoidance. Focus forces you to confront what really matters, and to give it the time and attention it deserves. At the end of the day, that's the deeper gift of focus: peace. The peace of knowing that while you didn't do everything, you did the right things. Remember, focus turns someday into done. Focus grows in quiet, guarded moments. Focus is a skill, not a personality trait. And you can strengthen it starting now. The world will try to pull you in 1,000 directions, but your future depends on the one direction you choose today. Part 5. The courage to start before you're ready. There's a dangerous myth we've all been sold. You should wait until you're ready. Wait until you have more money. Wait until you have more time. Wait until you have more confidence, skills, or experience. It sounds wise, but it's a trap. Because here's the truth: you will never feel fully ready. If you wait for perfect conditions, you'll wait forever. The illusion of readiness. Most people think readiness is a feeling, that one day they'll wake up with absolute certainty and a green light from the universe. But readiness isn't a feeling. It's a decision. And that decision almost always has to come before you feel confident. Think about learning to swim. You don't wait until you're an expert to get in the water. You get in the water first, clumsy and unsure, and the skill comes later. Life works the same way. You gain the skill by starting, not before starting. 1. Action creates clarity. There's a woman I know named Laura. For years, she wanted to start her own bakery. She loved baking, had great recipes, and dreamed of owning a cozy little shop. But she kept telling herself, "I need more training. I need a business plan. I need better equipment." Years passed. Nothing happened. Finally, one day, she decided to just start, not with a shop, but by selling cupcakes at the local farmer's market. It wasn't perfect. Her booth was small, her pricing was guesswork, and her display was, well, charming in a very homemade way. But something happened. She got feedback from real customers. She learned what sold and what didn't. She figured out her costs. And within 6 months, she had enough momentum and confidence to open a small storefront. If she had waited until she felt ready, she might still be waiting. Action creates clarity. You can't figure everything out in your head. You figure it out by doing. 2. Fear disguised as preparation. Sometimes getting ready is just fear in a clever costume. We tell ourselves we're researching, planning, improving, when really, we're avoiding the risk of starting. The problem is, no amount of preparation will erase uncertainty. There will always be a leap. I remember when I first launched a public speaking workshop. I wanted everything perfect, my slides, my delivery, my marketing. I delayed for months, tweaking endlessly. Finally, I admitted to myself, I wasn't waiting for readiness. I was hiding from the possibility of failing in public. The moment I realized that, I booked a date, rented a room, and started inviting people. Was it perfect? No. But it was real. And that first, imperfect event opened doors to dozens more. Preparation is important, but when it becomes an excuse, it turns into a cage. 3. Progress beats perfection. The world doesn't reward the person who waits the longest to launch. It rewards the person who learns the fastest, and that only happens through action. Think about the tech industry. Companies release version 1.0, products that are far from flawless. Why? Because they know real feedback is more valuable than endless internal polishing. Your first attempt will never be your best. That's not a failure, that's the process. When you embrace starting before you're ready, you give yourself permission to improve in public. You stop aiming for a flawless debut and start aiming for consistent progress. 4. The confidence loop. Most people believe confidence comes before action. But in reality, confidence is the result of action. Every small step you take proves to yourself that you can handle more than you thought. That proof builds confidence. That confidence fuels more action. And the loop continues. If you reverse it, if you wait for confidence to come first, you'll be stuck forever. I once met a young musician who dreamed of performing live but said, "I'm too nervous. I'll wait until I'm more confident." The problem? Confidence only comes after you perform. So we made a deal. She would start by playing one song at a small open mic night. Her hands shook. She forgot a line. But the audience clapped, and she walked off the stage taller than when she walked on. 3 months later, she was booking her own shows. Not because the fear vanished, but because she learned she could do it while afraid. 5. The myth of the perfect time. There's no such thing as the right time. Life will always be busy. There will always be bills, obligations, uncertainties. The stars will never align in perfect symmetry to announce, "Now is the moment." The perfect time is the moment you decide to act out. I know people who launched businesses during recessions, went back to school while raising children, moved to new countries without speaking the language. None of them were ready, but they were willing. And willingness beats readiness every single time. 6. How to start before you're ready. Starting before you're ready doesn't mean being reckless. It means taking a smart, small step today instead of waiting for the big, perfect step that never comes. Here's how. 1. Define the smallest possible starting point. Not, write a book, but write one page. Not run a marathon, but run for 5 minutes today. 2. Set a public commitment. Tell someone what you're doing and when. Accountability turns intentions into action. Point 3. Expect imperfection. Assume your first try will be messy. That's not failure, it's progress. Point 4. Celebrate the start. The hardest part is taking the first step. Reward yourself for moving, not just for finishing. The gift of imperfect beginnings. The first time you do something, it won't be your best work, but it will be the most important, because it's the seed from which everything else grows. When you start before you're ready, you discover something powerful. You're more capable than you think. You learn faster than you expect. And the world is far more forgiving of your imperfect start than you are. Most of all, you realize that readiness isn't something you wait for. It's something you create. Remember, readiness is a decision, not a feeling. Action comes before clarity and confidence. There is no perfect time, only now. Your future self is watching you. Don't keep them waiting. If you want, I can move right into part 6 so the flow continues without breaking momentum and your audience gets the next chapter's energy immediately. That way, we keep their attention locked in. Part 6. The power of one more step. There's a point in every journey where you want to quit, not because you're weak, not because you're lazy, but because the road feels too long and the goal feels too far away. It's the point where your dream isn't shiny anymore, where the initial excitement has faded, where you've been putting in the work, but the results haven't shown up yet. This is the moment that makes or breaks people, and it all comes down to whether you can take one more step. The wall you didn't see coming. Every dream has a wall. You can't see it when you start. In the beginning, you're full of energy, fueled by hope. But somewhere along the way, you hit it. The wall is the project that drags on longer than you planned. The skill that's harder to learn than you thought. The rejections you didn't expect. The mornings you wake up and wonder if it's worth it. Most people turn back when they hit the wall. They decide, I guess it wasn't meant to be. But here's the truth. The wall isn't a sign you're on the wrong path. It's proof you're moving forward. The last mile principle. There's an old saying among marathon runners. The last mile is the longest. It's not because the distance is longer. It's because your body is tired. Your mind is screaming to stop, and you've been carrying the weight of the entire race. But something magical happens when you push through that last mile. The finish line appears. In business, in relationships, in personal growth, the same principle applies. The hardest part often comes right before the breakthrough. Think about the farmer who plants seeds. He waters them every day, sees nothing for weeks, and wonders if anything is happening underground. Most people stop watering too soon, not realizing the sprouts were just about to break through the soil. 1. Progress hides in plain sight. One of the most dangerous lies your brain tells you is, this isn't working. But often, progress is happening quietly. You're building skill. You're earning trust. You're creating momentum, even if you can't see it yet. I remember talking to a friend who was learning guitar. For months, it felt like nothing was improving. Then, one day, without even realizing it, she played an entire song perfectly. The skill had been building all along. It just revealed itself suddenly. Your dream works the same way. You may not see the growth day to day, but every small effort adds up. 2. One more step can change everything. You don't have to leap the whole mountain today. You just have to take one more step. That step might be sending one more email, making one more phone call, writing one more page, practicing for one more hour. You never know which step will be the one that tips the scale, the one that turns all your unseen effort into visible results. When Thomas Edison was inventing the light bulb, he tested thousands of designs. Any one of those trials could have been the one that finally worked. But if he had stopped even one attempt too soon, we might still be living in darkness. 3. Building endurance in the dip. Seth Godin calls it the dip. That period between starting something and mastering it, where things feel harder, slower, and less rewarding. Most people give up in the dip. But if you understand it's part of the process, you can push through. Think of the gym. The first week feels exciting. But somewhere around week 4, your muscles are sore, the novelty has worn off, and the results aren't obvious yet. That's when most people quit. But if you keep going, if you push through that dip, you reach the point where momentum starts working in your favor. 4. Resilience is built in the struggle. Every step you take in the hard moments is training you for bigger challenges ahead. The person who has only walked downhill can't climb a mountain. But the one who has walked uphill every day has legs of steel. The struggle is not a detour from success. It's the path to it. The day you push through when you don't feel like it. The day you show up even though you're tired. The day you do the work when no one is watching. That's the day you prove to yourself you have what it takes. 5. How to keep going when you want to stop. 1. Focus on the next step, not the whole journey. Thinking about the entire road ahead can feel crushing. Just take the next step in front of you. Point 2. Remind yourself why you started. Reconnect with the vision that made you begin in the first place. Point 3. Count the wins you've already had. You've already survived days you thought you couldn't. Point 4. Visualize the finish line. Feel the pride you'll have when you can say, "I didn't quit." The finish line feels different. Here's what I've learned. It's not just the goal that matters. It's the person you become on the way there. When you finally reach that finish line, you'll realize the reward isn't just the result. The reward is the resilience you've built, the courage you've proven, and the trust you've earned with yourself. And that trust, the knowledge that you can rely on yourself, is worth more than any trophy, paycheck, or applause. The final message. So here's my challenge to you. If you're tired, take one more step. If you feel stuck, take one more step. If you're doubting yourself, take one more step. Because you never know. Your dream might be waiting just one step away. Remember, the wall is part of the journey, not a stop sign. Progress often hides until you're ready to see it. Point 1. More step can be the one that changes everything. You have what it takes. You've always had it. And now, it's time to prove it to yourself. Call to action. If this series has lit even the smallest spark in you, don't let it go out. Keep taking steps, no matter how small. And if these words have inspired you, I'd love for you to help them reach more people. White heavy checkmark. Subscribe for more uplifting, action-driven messages. White heavy checkmark. Share this with someone who's standing at their own wall and needs the courage to take one more step. White heavy checkmark. Comment below with the one thing you're going to do today to move forward. Your story isn't over. In fact, the best chapters are still ahead. Now go write them.